Okay, now we're going to do just a quick review of factoring. And so the idea here is that you want to pull out some constant number or common factor out of this so that 3x minus 3 is equal to something times x minus 1. So you can see that if you pull out a 3, you get 3x minus 3 is equal to 3 times the quantity x minus 1. So you're factoring out the 3. And you can always check that by distributing the 3 back in. You should get 3x minus 3. Now in the second case, we want to factor out x minus something and x plus something. And so the question is, what things can I multiply together to get 12 and then have their difference be negative 7? And so I could either do, well, what multiplies would be 12? 2 and 6, 1 and 12, or 3 and 4. And of those, it could either be, it could only be 3 and 4. So it's x minus 3 times x minus 4. Again, if you FOIL this out, you get x squared minus 3x minus 4x plus 12, which is exactly x squared minus 7x plus 12. So this is like foiling, but in reverse. Okay, and then this last example, we want something that will multiply to give us negative 25, but when you add them up, you get 0. So in this case, it's going to be x minus something times x plus something, and those things should cancel. And of all the factors of 25, 5 is the only one that when I FOIL it, I'll get x squared minus 5x plus 5x minus 25. So the positive 5x and the negative 5x cancel. And that's how you get x squared minus 25 there. Okay, so now that we've done a little review, we're going to try and tackle example 4. And so this is a little bit longer problem. But remember, step number 1 is to find any restrictions. And in this case, we need that x minus 2 cannot equal 0, and x plus 6 cannot equal 0, and x squared plus 4x minus 12 cannot equal 0. And it turns out that x squared plus 4x minus 12, if you factor that, that is that's x plus 6 times x minus 2. And we're saying that that can't equal 0. And so both of these factors on the right here are already taken care of by the fact that x cannot equal 2 and x cannot equal negative 6. Okay? So those are restrictions. X minus 2 cannot equal 0, which means x can't equal 2. X plus 6 cannot equal 0, which means x cannot be negative 6. Alright, step 2 was to find the LCD, and like I said, if you factor x squared plus 4x minus 12, you get x plus 6 times x minus 2. So that is the LCD, because x squared plus 4x minus 12, that has x plus 6 as a factor, and it has x minus 2 as a factor. So that's our LCD. And now in step 3, we're going to multiply everything by that to simplify things. So let me write this as 1 over x minus 2 minus, I'm going to leave some space here, I'm going to be multiplying by something, by the LCD. So minus 5 over x plus 6 equals, and again I'm going to leave a little bit of room, 8 over x squared plus 4x minus 12. Alright, and now I'm going to multiply this by the LCD, and I like to write it like this, x plus 6 times x minus 2, only because that will make canceling a lot easier. And I'll write it again, x plus 6 times x minus 2, and x plus 6 times x minus 2. And now the x minus 2 over the x minus 2 cancels, and I'm left with x plus 6 times 1 minus, and in the section expression, the x plus 6 over the x plus 6 cancel, and I'm left with x minus 2 times 5. And then in the third expression, the x plus 6 times x minus 2 is equal to x squared plus 4x minus 12. So those things cancel. I'm just left with 1 times 8. Okay, and if you have any questions on that step, you can ask me in class how I did it, or in office hours, or go to tutoring. Okay, so now I'm going to distribute everything in. So I get x plus 6 times 1 is x plus 6 minus 5x plus 10. Okay, and there what I did was I took the negative sign here, distributed it into the x minus 2, so it becomes negative x plus 2, and I distributed the 5 in as well, so it's negative 5x plus 10. And then finally get that's all equal to 8. And so now I'm going to combine like terms. I'll get x minus 5x is negative 4x, and then 6 plus 10 is 16, so that's plus 16 equals 8, and I'll subtract 16 from both sides, and I should get negative 4x equals negative 8. So x equals 2. Alright, so x equals 2 should be my solution, and there's only one problem. So this is my possible solution. But there's one problem, and that is that if you remember our restrictions were that x could not be 2 and x could not be negative 6. So since the only possible solution was x equals 2, we actually get that there are no solutions to this rational equation. And that's because the only possible solution you could have is x equals 2, but if you do that, then you'll get 1 over 0 when you plug in 2 into that first expression, and you'll get 8 over 0 when you plug it in 2 into this expression on the right-hand side. So there are no solutions at all.